The Galactic Council chamber fell silent when the human ambassador walked through the ancient doors. 12,000 years of recorded history filled those halls. Species that had conquered stars before Earth's sun had even formed sat in their elevated seats. They looked down at the small creature from a young world with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely hidden disgust. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood at the center of the great circle. She was surrounded by beings of light, creatures of living crystal, entities that existed partially in dimensions humans could not even perceive. Her simple human form seemed almost comically primitive in comparison. The eldest of them all, a being known only as the First Witness, spoke through vibrations that translated directly into thought. His race had existed when the universe was still cooling from its violent birth. They had seeded galaxies with life and watched civilizations rise and fall like waves upon an endless shore. "You request membership in the Eternal Council," the First Witness communicated. "Your species is barely 50,000 years old. Your civilization has existed for less than 10,000. You discovered space travel only 200 years ago. By what measure do you believe yourselves worthy to stand among us?" Sarah had prepared for this moment her entire life. Every human diplomat before her had been rejected. The Council had turned away Earth's representatives 17 times across 2 centuries. But Sarah carried something none of her predecessors had possessed. She carried the truth. "I do not come to argue our worthiness," she replied calmly. "I come to reveal a history that your own archives have hidden. I come to speak of the dumping." A ripple of discomfort passed through the assembled beings. Some of the younger races, those merely millions of years old, looked confused. But the ancient ones, the true elders, shifted in ways that suggested deep unease. The First Witness remained still for a long moment. "That term has no meaning in our records." "Then your records have been altered," Sarah said. "But the evidence remains. It remains in our very blood. It remains in the strange geology of our world. It remains in the impossible diversity of life that should not exist on a single planet." She activated a holographic display that floated before all present. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. For 200 years, our scientists have been puzzled by Earth. The diversity of elements in our planet's crust does not match any natural formation patterns. We have minerals that should only form in the hearts of neutron stars. We have compounds that require conditions impossible in our solar system. We have genetic material in our most ancient organisms that does not fit any evolutionary pathway. The crystal beings whispered among themselves in frequencies of light. The energy entities pulsed with colors that suggested agitation. 60 years ago, Sarah continued, we developed technology capable of reading quantum signatures embedded in matter. We discovered that nearly 40% of Earth's mass carries markers, identification tags, if you will. Tags that trace back to 17 different star systems, all of which are home to species represented in this very chamber. The silence that followed was absolute. Sarah let it stretch before continuing. 4 billion years ago, the ancient races faced a problem. Your civilizations produced waste. Not ordinary waste, but the byproducts of technologies so advanced that they could not be destroyed. Radioactive materials that would remain dangerous for billions of years. Failed biological experiments that could not be terminated. Broken machinery that contained self-replicating components. Dimensional refuse that leaked into normal space. She pulled up another display showing a young, barren Earth being bombarded by countless objects. You needed somewhere to dump it all. Somewhere far from your territories. Somewhere that would never develop intelligent life because the conditions would be too unstable, too chaotic, too poisoned by the mixture of incompatible materials. The first witness finally responded. If what you suggest were true, which I do not confirm, then how would your species have evolved? Such conditions would prevent any complex life. Sarah smiled. It was not a smile of happiness, but of profound understanding. That is exactly what your scientists calculated. They were wrong. They did not account for what happens when you combine refuse from 17 different advanced civilizations. They did not predict that the broken biological experiments would merge with each other. They did not foresee that the leaking dimensional matter would create pockets of accelerated evolution. They never imagined that the radioactive waste would actually drive mutation in directions that led to greater complexity rather than destruction. She pulled up images of Earth's life forms, the incredible variety of species, the bizarre adaptations, the relentless survival instinct that seemed to define every creature on the planet. We are not an ordinary species that evolved on an ordinary world. We are what happens when the garbage of the universe learns to think. Every ancient race threw away their failures, their poisons, their most dangerous mistakes. And those mistakes merged and grew and became us. A being of pure mathematical consciousness spoke for the first time. This explanation seems designed to invoke sympathy, to claim victim status. Sarah shook her head firmly. No, I am not here to complain about what was done. I am here to explain what we have become because of it. You see, the refuse you discarded gave us gifts that no naturally evolved species could ever possess. She raised her hand and began counting the points. From the crystalline harmony, we received genetic fragments that give us an intuitive understanding of structural engineering. Your ancestors threw away a failed experiment in silicon-based consciousness. That experiment merged with early Earth life and gave rise to our mathematical abilities. The crystal beings vibrated with what might have been shock. From the first witnesses people, we inherited scraps of temporal perception. Nothing as refined as your abilities, but enough to give us pattern recognition that lets us see consequences before they happen. You call it intuition. We call it gut feeling. It is actually a primitive form of time sight. The first witness leaned forward, his ancient form suddenly tense. From the Void Walkers, we received fragments of dimensional awareness that manifested as imagination. The ability to conceive of things that do not exist and then make them real. You threw away failed experiments in reality manipulation. We absorbed them and gained creativity. Sarah continued through the list. Each ancient race had contributed something. Failed experiments in energy manipulation gave humans their unusual stamina and ability to push through exhaustion. Discarded biological weapons created their immune systems so aggressive and adaptable that they could fight off diseases never encountered before. Broken communication devices embedded in Earth's crust had leaked their programming into early neural development, giving humans their remarkable capacity for language and abstract thought. Every gift came from something you threw away, Sarah concluded. Every strength we possess is recycled from your failures. And here is the truth that I suspect your leaders have always feared. We are not just survivors. We are adapters. We take what does not work and make it work. We find value in what others discard. She paused to let her words sink in. In 200 years of space travel, we have done what took your peoples millions of years. We learned to use every technology we encountered, regardless of whether it was designed for our biology or our physics. We combined systems that your engineers said were incompatible. We found solutions to problems by approaches that violated the fundamental assumptions of every established science. The mathematical consciousness spoke again. You suggest that your unusual origin makes you superior? Not superior, Sarah corrected. Different. And necessary. Your civilizations have reached a plateau. Your scientists have told me this privately, even if they cannot say it publicly. You mastered the universe so long ago that you stopped growing. You stopped adapting. You stopped finding new ways because the old ways worked well enough. She gestured at the great chamber around them. This council has not accepted a new member in 8 million years. Not because no species was worthy, but because none brought anything new. None challenged your assumptions. None forced you to see the universe differently. Sarah stepped forward, and her small human form somehow seemed to fill more space than its physical dimension should allow. We are new. We are chaos shaped into consciousness. We carry pieces of all of you, jumbled together in ways that should not function, but somehow do. We see connections that your ordered minds cannot perceive because we were formed from disorder. We survive conditions that would kill any naturally evolved species because we were born from poison. The energy beings pulsed with rapid colors, communicating among themselves at speeds too fast for translation. 50 years ago, Sarah added, our explorers found the terminus barrier, the wall of corrupted space that has blocked expansion into the fourth galactic arm for 3 billion years. Your best scientists called it impassable. They said the dimensional instabilities would destroy any vessel, any probe, any form of matter that attempted to cross. Several council members reacted with increased attention at this topic. We sent a ship through last year. It returned safely. Our engineers found a way to use the instabilities instead of fighting them. They rode the chaos like a wave. They treated the barrier not as an obstacle, but as a transportation medium. The fourth arm is now accessible. The first witness rose from his seat. In 12,000 years of recorded history, no one had ever seen him stand. You crossed the terminus barrier? We did more than cross it. We mapped it. We built stations within it. We found that the barrier is not a natural phenomenon. It is another dumping ground, another garbage pile, created even longer ago than Earth. And we found something living within it, something that has been waiting. The chamber erupted in chaos. Beings of light flickered violently. Crystal entities shattered and reformed. Energy creatures expanded and contracted with agitation. Sarah stood calmly in the center of it all. The universe threw away its garbage for billions of years. It assumed that garbage would stay garbage. It never considered that garbage might wake up, might learn, might decide to reclaim its place among the stars. She looked directly at the first witness. We are not asking to join your council because we need you. We are asking because you need us. The barrier species has begun to move. It has been shaped by even more ancient refuse than Earth received. It is coming, and your perfectly evolved, perfectly stable, perfectly predictable civilizations have no concept of how to fight something born from chaos. The first witness remained standing, his ancient form trembling with emotions that humans had no names for. How do we know you will help us? He finally asked. How do we know the children of refuse will not side with the monsters of the barrier? Sarah smiled again, and this time it was warm, genuinely warm. Because that is the other gift your garbage gave us. You threw away your capacity for unconditional bonding. Your ancestors decided that attachment was inefficient, so they edited it out and discarded the genes. Those genes found their way to Earth. They merged with our ancestors. And now we have something your species lost 1 billion years ago. She placed her hand over her heart. We call it love. We call it loyalty. We call it the willingness to die for strangers, simply because they are alive and deserve to live. You cannot understand it because you discarded it, but it makes us incapable of abandoning anyone, even those who threw us away. The first witness slowly lowered himself back into his seat. When he spoke, his communication carried frequencies of something no translator could identify, something that might have been shame mixed with hope. The council will vote on humanity's membership. The vote was unanimous. Earth, the garbage world, had finally come home, and it had brought gifts that the ancient races had forgotten they ever possessed.